Okay, so current events. Okay, and I said I was going to kind of give you some key dates,
Mhm.
but let's talk about when you first got ordained as a priest. Now you got ordained as a deacon in 2001,
That's
2002,
right.
somewhere in there.
2001.
Okay, and then 2003 you got ordained as a priest.
Correct. Hmm.
Okay, and the bishop at that time, was he archbishop or was he just a bishop at that time, McCarrick?
It was Archbishop Theodore McCarrick, yeah, Archbishop of Washington, and a cardinal at the time. Hmm.
Okay, and at that time, what was your relationship with Bishop McCarrick?
Friendly,
How does that work? I mean, I'm
right.
talking about. Okay, so you're about ready to get ordained. Do you know the bishop real well? Do they have parties for you so you can sit and talk about things and make sure that your final, when you prostrate yourself and he places his hands
Mhm.
on that you're going to be a successful priest? What's the relationship between the bishop and the seminarians or the preordained folks?
Right, sure. There's some distance in that relationship. There's a lot of people in between, like the seminary officials, and then every diocese has a director of seminarians, and bishops rely on the recommendations of those people to make decisions about ordaining the
Okay.
candidates. But to his credit, Cardinal McCarrick, perhaps looking back with some ulterior motives, he did make it something of a practice of meeting with seminarians as a group somewhat regularly. His
Okay.
predecessor in Washington, Cardinal James Hickey, would meet with us individually. McCarrick didn't do that, but he did come. Pretty much, he came to the seminary every semester, and for pizza and beer is what that was his thing. We would go
Okay.
into the basement rooms and sit around and eat pizza and drink beer, and he would talk. Was really what it came down to.
Right.
That's what he liked to do, was talk to us.
Right. Okay. And how many people would be in a seminary class? How many were in yours?
There were nine of us ordained together my year
Okay.
for the
Okay.
Archdiocese of Washington. Yeah,
And you all go to the same mass, and you all go through. I think I've seen this at St. Andrews, but you all go through at the same time, and the bishop is responsible for giving you the blessing that's necessary for you to continue on with your ministry. Is that
correct.
correct?
Right. Hmm.
Okay. All right. Did at that time, when you were ordained, did you know anything about what was happening with at this point Cardinal McCarrick, as
Well,
far as
listen,
the sexual abuse
sure.
issues that were popping up at that time? Was this known to the seminary? Did you have any understanding of what was going on in 2003?
Sure, I appreciate your asking. We had heard before he came that there was talk up in New Jersey about the phrase sexual abuse wasn't used, that he liked to sleep with seminarians, is what we had heard.
Okay.
Seminary, and so
Right.
uh, when he actually addressed that in one of those pizza and beer sessions with us, pretty much as soon as he arrived,
Did
and
somebody
said
ask the
that
question? Did one of the
he
seminarians ask the question, or did he
he,
just
he
say,
brought it up
"There's
himself.
rumors out there, and I just want to clear them up"?
Right, exactly. He brought it up. No one asked him, and as I recall, and he said that you've heard these rumors. I imagine, and they're not true. I have a lot of enemies that are trying to hurt me, and that's where this is coming from. It's not true.
Okay.
So
And did you believe that?
I chose to believe it. Most, and which is what most of us did. We talked about it, of course, my seminarian
Right.
friends anyway, to a lot, and we decided that the right thing to do was to choose to believe him. That was the more Christian thing to do and the right thing for us
Well,
to do. So we did it.
and it sounds like you didn't have any real evidence. It was just, we hear
Correct.
this, it's a rumor or whatever, and then the person that's sitting in front of us says that didn't happen, and you made the best choices possible because, if it's, there's no way you could have known which way to choose to react to that.
Right. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So let me give you another date. So in June of, well, let me go back to this because this is just personal interest. Excuse me.
Mhm.
You were in St. Andrews when I saw you. and I think it was 2014 or 2015. You were in both parishes down south in Virginia, and then you went to St. Andrews, and then you went back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, was there any reason why that change was made? I mean, were they grooming you for something? What was the reason why you went from St. Francis and St. Joseph's to St. Andrews, and then you went back after a couple years?
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that question too. I mean, I wish I could say that I really understood it all fully. I don't. When I got the call about going to Roanoke, I love St. Andrews. It's a beautiful place. It's certainly a privilege to be the pastor of a place like that. There's a lot of good people there. Uh, but the call I got, I was told you're going to be the pastor of St. Andrews and St. Gerard's, which is another parish
Right,
there in
right,
Roanoke.
right.
Um, and I knew,
And heavy Hispanic population, and
right.
I think Vietnamese too. Isn't that with the
Actually,
Korean?
more Vietnamese go to St. Andrews than to St.
Okay,
Gerard's, but there's
okay,
a lot of Africans that go to St. Gerard's.
okay.
Yeah,
So you were brought up there with the understanding that because of your bilingual background, that would be a good place for you, or what was the? So you don't understand the reason why you were brought to Roanoke?
well, and given that assignment, because as soon as I got the phone call, I said to the diocesan official who was calling me, this is not going to work. This is not something that one person can manage, because it's the St. Andrews is a full time job in and of itself, and so is
Right,
St. Gerard's. I mean, St. Gerard's is not as large a parish, but it's not small because there's a lot of Spanish speaking people in the area,
right,
and it's the only place to go to mass in Spanish in the
right,
Roanoke area.
right.
And even though they're close to each other physically, I mean, they're about a quarter of a mile apart from each other. They both are full time jobs, and
Yeah,
I knew enough about them to know that.
right.
So I kind of said from the beginning, I'm going to do what I'm asked to do, but this is not going to work out well. Um, I mean, I was happy. I had a happy 2 years, but I've never been so exhausted. I mean, it was utterly exhausting and taxing on me. And I miss the people of both of those parishes. But then I had 2 years there, and then when that ended, then what I had said from the beginning was actually done. I mean, the I had two successors. It
Right,
was
right,
so. Um, and I was just as happy to go back to where I was before, where I didn't want to leave in the first place.
right. But you don't see any other reason other than they needed you up there, and you went, and then you did your 2 years time, and then you went back. There was no reason why you could understand why they moved you and then returned you after that time.
I mean, I could speculate. It would be a lot of different speculations.
Not necessary.
Yeah.
Not necessary. But everything was cool in St. Joseph's and St. Francis when they pulled you out of there, was it?
Yeah.
I mean, are
Right.
you were in the same position then as you are now?
Right. Yeah, and I was perfectly happy. I had no desire to leave. I mean, I never asked to be transferred, and I
Right,
didn't. I mean,
right.
I even tried to get out of it. Like I said, I mean, for the reason that I gave, but also that I really was so happy doing what I was doing. I didn't see a reason why it would need a change.